Good evening, everyone. It's author R. Weir, Randy. Hope everyone's had a great week. Seems like I was just on a few days ago doing a lot of podcasts with Left Coast Crime coming to town. There's a lot of authors who are going to be there. Once again, I wanted to do a quick promo on my new book, Justice for the Forgotten. It's out, getting great reviews. I hope everyone will check it out. A couple of graphics that my cover artist came up with, which I'll be sharing at Left Coast Crime as well. There's another one, and then I've got a new bookmark I'll be handing out with, which now has all my books on it, but was missing a couple. It gets expensive to keep updating these things every time you write a new book, and I've been putting out one about two every year, so got to always try to keep it up to date. So, but anyway, my guest tonight is Lori Roberts Herbst. Hi, Lori. How you doing?
Hi. How are you?
Good. We met a few years back at Killer Nashville.
Good. Mm-hmm.
From what I remember, and we'll talk about that a little later because it was a really good night for you, and I actually had a big night that night too, because 2021. I don't remember if that's the year we met or if it was one of the later years or not, but
somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of all blur together after a while. We do so many events and stay busy, and somewhere in there we also write books. So,
not lately.
Well, yeah, you'll have to tell us a little bit because I know you've been busy. You just moved and stuff, but tell us a little about yourself, all the important stuff people want to know.
Oh, well, I just moved to Colorado. Actually, I just moved to your neck of the woods. We've been here not quite a year. We came from Dallas. So, and I've lived in Dallas, in the Dallas area since I was 10. So this is a huge change for us, but we're loving it here. And that's probably the biggest thing in life, but it has kept me from writing. It's kept me so busy. I haven't put pen to paper, or actually it's fingertips to keyboards these days, as much as I'd like. I started into the writing business a little bit older. And so I want to churn those books out as much as I possibly can. I'm a former journalism teacher. I taught high school journalism for 25 years, and then I was a school counselor. So I'm either correcting your grammar or silently analyzing you. But it's all
every time you read somebody's book.
Yes.
Oh, man, there should be a comma there, and yeah.
Even when I read my own over after it's been in print, and I'm like, how did I miss that? Wife, mother of 2, grandmother of 4, just living life.
Pets?
No, I haven't had. I used to have dogs all the time, and the last 10 years before we moved here, we lived in a high rise, so we didn't keep any pets. But I'm on the search for a new one now that we're in a house again. I really love having dogs. I've never had a cat, although I write about cats. But I love always having a dog and really desperately miss it.
So why'd you move to Colorado? Other than that, I know I read on your books that you always love the mountains. Was that the main reason why you decided to move here?
Yes. Well, and there are a lot of Texas reasons, but mainly we're just so darn tired of the heat. I mean, in the summers, it gets up to in the triple digits for a long time. And it's just, I much prefer right now anyway, the cold winters to the hot summers. So I'll give that up.
Well, it hasn't been too crazy cold this year. We haven't had a ton of snow. Maybe in your neck of the woods, you've had a little more. It's been very dry here, which worries me because of the fires we've had. Last few years have been terrible. But you're a little higher altitude. You're down more south of me, I believe, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Colorado Springs. And we had like a week there of single digit or below 0 temps. And, but other than that, it's been pretty temperate. Yeah.
Great. So you're a retired journalism teacher. You also said you're a professional school counselor. Have you taken those skills and worked those into your books in any way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, psychology is important, with creating characters. Wouldn't you agree? You've
Sure.
got to know their motivations and why they act and think the way that they do. And so there are a lot of mental health issues that make for good characters, make for interesting, multi-layered people, and especially in mysteries. So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I actually got a question already. That didn't take long. Usually, sometimes I get questions, sometimes I don't. But Kimberly, she wants to watch the recording. She was wanted to ask about your writing process, and that was one of the questions we'll kind of get into. But
Okay.
is your story first when you develop characters, vice versa, all that stuff?
Oh, no, actually, I probably come up with characters first. I figure out who's going to be, first of all, I figure out somebody I want to kill. And so that's mainly the first step.
Yeah, all you gotta do is search the news to find somebody to kill these days, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So if I can make a character out of somebody who seems like a good bad guy to me, then I start with that. I start with the victim. And then who would want to kill this person and why? And then I kind of go from there. In the series I write, I have already a good command of the regular characters, the recurring characters. So I don't have to think too much about that anymore, except I am writing a new series, and it's all from scratch now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd say I start with that, and then I figure out what would be a good way for this person to die in a good place. And then I give a motive and the killer, and it kind of just spirals out from there. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, I'd say that would probably answer that. And we'll kind of get into a little bit later too about your processes beyond that too, because I always like to ask authors, plotter, pantster, and all that, but all those things. So who are some authors that inspired you to write, and why did you decide you wanted to be an author?
Well, most of us who write, I think, have always had the dream or the fantasy of writing since we were small children. I loved to read, even as a kid. And I always thought, what a wonderful thing to contribute this to society, and to other people, to give them all this pleasure and entertainment and thought and those kinds of things. There's really not much better you can do in your life, I think. And then, it's a good way, like I said, to kill people without getting in trouble for it, and to tell lies and to mislead people. It's just a fun thing to do. And I'm a cozy mystery writer. And as far as I didn't even know what it was when I started writing them. I had never heard the term cozy mystery in my life. Now, I'd read tons of them, but didn't really know that's what I was reading. But the main reason for jumping into the cozy genre is I wanted people to feel like they had some sort of escape, just something fun, just something that you can get into and solve the puzzle and love the characters and laugh a little bit and not have to think about the depressing and sad things in the world and that's my contribution. And I'll be honest, like when I was raising kids and I have to wait in the car, for example, for somebody to be through with piano lessons, I would just listen to on audio or read cozy mysteries. I read a lot of Diane Mott Davidson, for example, MC Beaton, all those cozy authors, because it was just fun. And it was a way to pass the time while not knowing exactly how long I was going to have. And to be honest, I thought at the time, I could do this. This is pretty easy. And so I sat down after I retired to write my first cozy mystery and realized it was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. It's not easy at all, but it is still tremendous fun. I enjoy it a lot.
So did you, when you were younger, when you were in school and stuff, when you liked to read, did you also write as well? Or were you pretty much just a reader?
I was, at that age, I was a reader. Once I got into my 20s and 30s, I would start half start a book or a story or something, and I'd get 100 pages and then get caught back up in life and just never could find the time. I had a journalism teacher. Does not sound like that demanding of a job, but it was a very demanding job. And then raising 2 kids and, trying to give my husband some quality time as well. I just couldn't devote the time for it that I needed to learn the craft. So once I retired, though, it came pretty easily.
Well, and for most authors, it's not like you can make a living at it right away. I mean,
Yeah.
Even later, sometimes you don't necessarily make a true living at it. That's one of the challenges, unless you're one of the real big name authors who gets these huge contracts. It doesn't usually pay the bills. So yes, you pretty much have to do a real job and then try to work the writing in. And like I said, you have kids. They demand your attention, which they should. That's part of their job too. So do you remember the first thing you ever wrote? And did you know the motivation behind writing it?
Now, when I was in school, when I was in high school and college, I was a journalist. I did a lot of journalism writing. So that was my focus then. Nonfiction, factual, articles. And so those are the things I remember writing as a youth. And in college, I wrote for my college newspaper and things, and thought I was going to be a journalist, and then changed my mind there towards the end and decided I wanted to teach. As far as fiction, I wrote the most ridiculous science fiction thing when I was in my 20s about some kid who disappeared into a video game world, and it's been done 1,000 times. So there was no originality to it, and no, but it probably kept me from moving forward for a long time. So, but I love science fiction. I love horror. I love reading across genres, and I really would like to try my hand at some of those genres at some point too.
So the term cozy mystery, for people who don't understand what cozy is compared to what I write, which is more hard-boiled detective and thrillers and grittier stuff. Cozy, how would you describe cozy, at least when it comes to what you write?
Well, the best way to describe it really is to think of Murder, She Wrote. It's that kind of a thing. It's pretty clean. There's no graphic violence. All the violence pretty much takes place off screen, so to speak. No swearing really. I mean, golly darns, and and there's no graphic sex. There's romance, but no, everything that happens off screen. It's about the puzzle, first of all, and giving readers a chance to solve the puzzle along with the sleuth. And it's about the relationships and the friendships that develop over the course of the series and the character arcs.
Yeah. So I've got to get my pictures here. So you've got your Callie Cassidy Mystery series. I think you've had 6 books from what I saw.
Yes.
And we got the 6 books there we'll throw up on the screen, which covers us up. Nobody can see us now, but that's okay. But
that's good with me.
pretty obvious that a dog and a cat are involved in this series. So tell us a little bit about it.
They are. Yeah. In fact, the panel I'm on at Left Coast Crime this week is called Animal Sidekicks. These cozy mystery readers are, number one, voracious readers. They read a lot of cozy mysteries. And secondly, they like animals, and I like animals. So it's a good fit. These two creatures are the protagonist, Callie Cassidy. They're her animals, and they help her in every way, pretty much. And the last dog we had was a golden retriever. So I'm very partial to golden retrievers. That was the best dog we ever had, I think. And like I said, I've never had a cat, but I wanted some snarky seeming animal in there, and a cat just seemed perfect.
So do we ever see any scenes from the animals' points of view, or is it always just what their actions going on and what they're doing?
They have some, I guess you'd say, some mild human traits. The cat seems to roll his eyes sometimes and seems to have a grasp on what's going on and seems to think the humans are subpar. But the cat, they don't have, there's no human language involved with them. They don't solve the crimes. They don't, they're definitely sidekicks, not sleuths.
Yes, so they're along for the ride. So what was the first book again?
Suitable for Framing.
Okay, so there we go, Suitable for Framing. So tell us a little bit about where the idea came from, the protagonist in this, obviously besides the pets.
Well, the first book took me a long time to write and went through several different iterations. Like I said, I didn't even know what a cozy was. And once I got a manuscript and sent it off to an editor, they said, this sounds like it would be a good cozy if you change this, and this. And so I did. I figured out the parameters and the tropes and all that and went back and did some rewriting. But my main character in the series was an investigative photojournalist. And as I said, I taught journalism for a number of years, including photography. So that seemed like a good fit. I could give her a job that I understood and could take her through. All the titles of the books have something to do with photography. Usually it's kind of some sort of double entendre. Suitable for framing, somebody in the book gets framed. And then she's working on her photography and it's suitable for framing. So all the books have photography titles. All of them have to do with, somehow she solves it using either her photography skills or her investigative skills. And that's just kind of how that came about.
And the dog and the cat, what are their names?
The dog it's Woodward. She calls him Woody, but it's, Woodward, and the cat is Carl. So it's Woodward and Bernstein, essentially. The ones that broke the Watergate.
Bernstein.
Yeah.
There's no deep throat in the story.
No.
Go back to the Nixon days, showing my age here. And
Me too.
And so the dog and the cat and her. So do you have other characters that carry throughout the series besides those three?
Oh, absolutely. She's moved back, she's moved back to the village where she grew up. She had been out being an investigative photojournalist, and an unfortunate incident kind of derailed her career. So she moved back kind of with her tail between her legs, having to restart her life again in this little village where her parents live and all her high school friends still are. And it's kind of an embarrassment for her. But we watch her grow back into it and become a part of the community and fit right in. And then, of course, as happens in cozy mysteries, a murder just strangely happens in her village and she's forced into the role of amateur sleuth. So
is it in Colorado you base the stories? And is it a fictional town or?
It is. It's a fictional town, but it's loosely based on Estes Park. We spent a lot of vacations in the Estes Park area. And I just loved it. It's one of the reasons we moved to Colorado anyway, was all the time we had spent there. And so that's where I wanted to set the books. The town is called Rock Creek Village, but it's purely fiction. I wanted the ability to put stores that I wanted and set the map. So.
Well, Estes Park's one of our favorite places too. We go there a lot, other than the traffic. The traffic there is a nightmare in the summertime. And I don't know if there's ever a good time to go up there in the summertime when you're not going to be stuck in traffic for a long time.
And it's not cheap either. So
no, yeah, it's a beautiful area. And Rocky Mountain National Park is a great park to drive through and stuff. So, do you have Rocky Mountain National Park at all in the story as well?
Yes, they visit in every book at least once. I think except one of them is out of Creek Village. One of them, they go visit a dude ranch. But other than that, they spend time in the national park. Yeah, I love it there.
Do you ever actually mention Estes Park in the books, or is
no? But yeah. I mentioned Rocky Mountain National Park, and Bear Lake and Moraine Lake and the Alluvial Fan and all those spots. So.
Right. So, pretty obvious that it's more or less Estes Park, right? But,
yes.
Well, and that's always a thing too. So she is, all these murders always happen in this same small town, or does she ever go other places?
When she went to the Dude Ranch, the murder happened there. It's kind of like they always say about Angela Lansbury in Murder, She Wrote. If you see Angela Lansbury coming, you better go the other way, because and I think it's getting like that. And that's one of the challenges in writing a long series is you expect that readers will bend their disbelief a little bit, and they know that they're going to get a murder, and they know that this isn't realistic, that all these murders keep happening in this small town.
Right.
But they'll give you a little leeway with that. But I get to the point at book 6, I got to the point where I was like, I don't know how many more people I can kill in this village. So
yes, that is one of the challenges. My new series as well, that was one of the things we had talked about. And it's like, well, everywhere he goes, there's a murder. In this case, people are contacting him, and he goes and solves cold cases. So something that's already happened. So he doesn't have a crime scene to look at. So even more challenging for him. But that was one of the things I was like, well, if he goes and everywhere he goes, somebody dies, it kind of wears out after a while. So they even made, ever watch the old Monk TV show?
Yes. Love that show.
Yeah, they talked about that in there, and she kept talking about, you're like bad mojo, everywhere you go, somebody dies. And then later on, she's like, oh, actually, you're good mojo, because you actually catch the killer, right?
Exactly.
So are you independently published, traditionally published? How are you published?
I'm totally independently published. When I got the first manuscript finished, and I had a couple of editors look at it, and I thought it was in really good shape. I started querying agents and got some very positive feedback, and a couple of people who were quite interested. And then they started telling me what the timeline would be, and those kinds of things. Sure. First you have to get the agent, and then the publisher. And I was looking at my calendar, actually, and I was like, I'm in my late 50s here, and I'd really like to get some books published before the time ticks away. And I had a solid background. I was a journalism teacher, so I taught graphic design, and I taught, all those kinds of things. I had a good feel for marketing, yearbook and newspaper, all those things gave me that. So I thought, I bet I could do this myself. And it's just when independent publishing was kind of turning positive. Right. It had such a bad reputation before my 50s that everybody could just throw garbage out onto the internet and call it publishing. But it was starting to get a better reputation at that time. So I didn't feel like it was a loser's way to go anymore. And I researched it and studied how to do it, and took some Mark Dawson classes, and
Mark, you see him all over Facebook and everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. And I got a professional editor to look at them, and a professional cover designer, and said, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do it myself. And I wouldn't change anything. People ask me, would you like to get an agent or publisher now? And I suppose if I was Stephen King caliber or Michael Connelly, I could do that, but I'm not interested. I enjoy all the aspects of it, except I don't know, the social media platforms are hard for me, but other than that.
Well, the marketing is always a challenge, and spending time, but even those, and I've interviewed several authors who have been, or are traditionally published, and they still have to do a lot of the marketing themselves these days. I mean, a lot of publishing houses are doing very little marketing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They might help arrange things, but you still got to go out there and you got to do all of it. And maybe they do some press releases, but yeah, it's a tough hoe for all of them these days.
It is, and marketing, it's not a stable entity. It keeps changing. It's so fluid, and every time I feel like I've gotten something down, it changes and it morphs into something new. You know, it's like, even with social media, for a long time, Facebook was the place to be for cozy mystery writers because you know, that's just where the readership hung out. And that's still true to a large degree, but now there's Blue Sky and there's Threads and there's Instagram, and it just keeps expanding and contracting and expanding and contracting. And it's just hard to keep up with and still write too.
Well, yeah, and yeah, you could spend most of your time on social media, and there are some days when I do that more than I should, and then I'm kicking myself later and going, I wish I hadn't done that. Mm-hmm. So, what year did your first book come out?
2021. Yeah,
so right about COVID time.
Yes, exactly. Fun times.
So even more so, being traditionally published, they were probably telling you 2-3 years out before your book would even be released, because there started to be such a backlog because of COVID on things.
Well, and you know, there's just back to the indie publishing thing for a second. You know, I'm kind of a control freak anyway. And so, yeah, so I get to determine how long my series is. I don't have a publisher telling me, well, we're done. I get to determine what my cover looks like, what my, you know, those kinds of things. So there are just so many positives in my estimation. So
I agree. I'm kind of the same way. I don't mind a little constructive feedback, but yeah, changing. I mean, you see some of these traditionally published authors, and they might have 4 or 5 different covers throughout their cycle, depending on which publisher they go with. They're constantly changing them and all the time. So this was your latest book, correct?
Book 6.
And when did this come out?
That one just came out on audio last week. That's why I gave you the audio cover there. Yeah.
Who does your narration?
Her narrator's name is Lillian Baxter. That's a pseudonym, but she's also a brand new. I figured I was a brand new author, so I'd get a brand new narrator to do the books too, and give somebody else a chance. And I found her on Audible. So yeah, she's done a great job. The book itself came out in April of 2024. So it's almost a year old. But the audio, I didn't start audio until very recently. So she's just now getting to book 6. So.
Right. Well, it can be an expensive thing too, depending on how you're paying them. So, you know, so you can split royalties, but if you don't have a big sales, like my audio books just don't sell that well so far. So, and so it's kind of mean. So I usually have to pay my, and it gets expensive. Now, generally, cozy books are not real long either. I'm guessing, right? They're in the shorter range, not short stories, but you know, what, 60, 70,000 words, somewhere in there?
Well, mine are all right around 80,000 or between 80 and 85. And usually I have to cut 10,000 words to get back down to that. I guess I'm a little verbose, but yeah, it's a good 9-hour audio book, I think, between 8.5 and 9 hours usually.
Yeah, my books are about 150,000 words, so it really gets expensive after a while. But
yeah, exactly.
You kind of have to be in there, because that is a really growing market, and finding the right narrator can be a challenge too. So she's done all your books, so that's great.
Yeah. Now this new series, I'll probably get a different narrator, because the main character is younger. So, you know, I need that voice to be, but we'll see. We'll see. The book's not anywhere near ready to come out yet, so I don't even have that thought. That thought's way far in advance.
So will there be a book? We'll talk about little bit about the series you're working on, but is there plans for a book 7? in
I'm
this group?
hoping. Yeah, ideally, what I'd like to do is get 3 books in this new series done within a year, ready to publish and get those 3 out, and then go back and do another Callie book next year. I have already ideas for that, and I don't think it'll be as hard to write as this first book of a new series is. It's just I'm having to create a whole world, from scratch now, and that's just I've forgotten how hard it is.
Yeah, when you have an established series, you've got established
Uh-huh.
characters, and those characters are already talking to you. At least they do to me.
Me too.
And
Yep.
it's the same thing with my new series. It was a little bit of a, and plus I was trying to find a different tone, somewhat
Mhm.
different than the pre. I didn't want to recycle everything. It was
Me
still
too.
crime,
Exactly.
but there's you want it to be, different in some ways. So I bounced it around for a while, and it does take some time to get the characters developed. And I think once you get on a roll, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
So what type of, if you want to tell us any little bit about what this new series is going to deal with?
Yeah. It's another cozy mystery series, but in a strange twist of fate. When I lived in Texas, I wrote books about Colorado, and now that I live in Colorado, this new series is set in Texas. So I don't know, go figure. But it's it's called the Seahorse Bay Mystery Series. The first book will be called Larceny at the Lighthouse. It's set on a port town, a cruise ship port town. So I thought, well, that's a good, cruise ships can come in and you get all sorts of new victims and perpetrators and things like that. It doesn't always have to be people who live in the town, you know. So, and the main character did work on a cruise ship, but now she's come home to help her aunts run their aquarium. They have a tourist type aquarium in the town. So we've got all sorts of animals there too. I guess animals are my thing. So, well, a lot of cozy mysteries do culinary, and I don't cook, so I couldn't do culinary. So I can do the animals.
So, pantster or plotter?
Yeah, I saw that question on your list, and I've been asked that before. And I used to say plotter, and without even hesitation. I mean, that's just me. If I don't feel organized, I'm stressed. I don't go to the grocery store without a map. So yeah, so that's just my nature.
Things to buy and everything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the journalism teacher in me. We have to know what's going to happen. But this book, I'm finding I can only outline like 6 or 8 chapters, and then I have to see where it's gone and then go 6 or 8 chapters after that. I know who the killer is, and I know why, and I know all that, but I don't know how to get there yet. So it's kind of, the draft that I'm writing is kind of a very extensive outline. It feels like and I know I was telling an author friend of mine the other day, I don't have any good words. And then I was like, well, the words are good. They're just not going together right. The words are fine. So I'm going to have to go back and do a whole lot of revision on this one.
So did you start this before you moved, or was this after you got moved and settled?
It was when we were in the process of moving. We came here in January of 2024. Our house wasn't ready until April. So we kind of, lived in Airbnbs and those kinds of things for a few months. But the 6th book came out in the other series in April, right as we were moving in here. And so that took a lot of my attention those first few months, because I had to do the revisions and the editing and, get ready for the pre-orders, all that kind of stuff. And so as soon as that was out, I started thinking about this series. And then that's pretty much what I did for 6 months, was just think about it. and then I've really been pushing it since winter hit. So.
So will any characters cross over between the 2 series, or are they going to be totally separate from each other?
Totally separate. Yeah, not in this series. I'm also considering another Colorado-based series, kind of a spin-off with one of the secondary characters in the Callie Cassidy series. So, but we'll see. That's all, down the road.
Well, I'm going to be on a panel called Crime in Colorado
I saw that panel. I'm going to go to it.
Thursday. And it was interesting. They gave us absolutely no feedback on what to cover. It just said, this is the name of it, Crime in Colorado. So I had come up with some ideas of what I thought we would talk about and stuff, but why Colorado is a good place to write crime books, and why'd you pick this? The environment and locations and everything. But yeah, that will be an interesting panel to be on. But I thought it was interesting, because usually you kind of get a little bit of you're going to discuss this underneath it. It was just strictly the title. That's all they gave us.
Yeah.
Maybe that's true about yours. I saw there's like 2 or 3 that deals with pets and animal panels as well. And I was going to try to go to those as well, hopefully, and sit in on those, because there's several authors I know that are going to be on those.
Yeah. A lot of my, I'm in the Sisters in Crime Colorado chapter, and several of the authors in that are going to be on your panel, I think. So.
Yes. So yeah, we have Marie is going to be the moderator, and then Helen Starbuck, who's been on my show. She lives just down the road in Arvada, and I know her as well. The other 2 I've never met before, but I told them, I said, I'd like to have you on the show. And I know Marie has a little she has a podcast too, though. I think hers is like a 5-minute one. I don't know that I could be on a 5-minute podcast.
You wouldn't have time to say anything.
No. By the time I'm done, I can answer one question and the 5 minutes are over. So it's pretty quick. So then, is there any, and you talked about another series you're thinking, is there a book that you've always wanted to write that you haven't written yet?
Oh, I've always wanted to write horror.
Different genre?
Horror. Yeah, for sure. I grew up a Stephen King fan, and I love scary books and scary movies, and just the whole psychology of those horror characters. They go so deep into those characterizations. I just haven't sat down and tried it yet. I don't know if I'd be any good at it. I tend to write, with Cozy Mysteries, like I said, all the graphic stuff happens off screen. And Dateline's one of my favorite shows, so I'm fine with gruesome. But I don't know if I could write it. I just don't know if my descriptive talents lie in that way. And it's the same with science fiction. I'd really enjoy writing science fiction, I think, but I don't know if I'm good enough at world building. And it's just something that I'd have to try and not be too hard on myself. And the only other thing I'd really think I'd like to write is YA. I really think I'd like young adult. I enjoy reading young adult, even at my advanced age here. And I think I'd really, again, with characters, I think that's my main thing, is I enjoy building characters, and those genres do a lot with that. So
have you ever stayed at the Stanley Hotel?
We visited there many times, but we've never stayed there. Yeah. Just our last trip a couple months ago, we did.
Yeah. Carter Wilson, who's another author friend of ours, and he writes horror type stuff. And he stayed there, and he stayed in one of the rooms that was supposedly haunted. And he says, I was disappointed. There were no ghosts that came to visit me. Doggone it. So, like, okay, Carter. I don't think I would want to stay there if they're truly ghosts. So. And then, you're a board secretary for Sisters in Crime.
I am, yes.
So you'll be involved with a lot of the Sisters in Crime's heavily involved with Left Coast Crime.
Yes, we've got, this is my 3rd year on the national board. And I gained so much, especially early on, from Sisters in Crime. I don't know that I would have ever published a book if I hadn't been in that group and gotten all the support and resources that they have available. And so I just thought I need to do some giving back. This is my way of giving back to an organization that helped me so generously.
And you have the time now.
Yes, exactly. And Sisters in Crime Colorado is a robust chapter. And I've met a lot of wonderful people through that too. And a lot of that is a lot of it is just the networking and the people that you get to know and the authors. And it's because writing can be a lonely business, as you know. And so it's nice to have people that you can email and say, I'm stuck here. What can I do? And somebody who understands what you're talking about. It's really nice.
So you've won a few big awards.
Well, I don't know about big, but the books have won some. Yeah.
Falchion, I think, is pretty well known.
Yeah.
I'd like to say it is because I won it too. But I think you won the same year I did.
Yeah, I won. Well, exactly. I won Best Cozy and I think runner-up for Best Book of the Year, which was shocking to me because it was the first book I'd written, and it was, very reassuring. It's. I don't know. I enter some of these contests just to see if I'm on the right track, partly, for the feedback. And when you're an indie writer, a lot of contests are not available to you, like the Edgar Awards, right, or the Agathas. Yeah. So you have to find those ones that are fairly prestigious, but allow indie. And so I've won the Silver Falchion, and I have been a finalist another couple of times. And I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be modest, but at the first 3 or 4 books, I can't remember, in the series, won the Chanticleer International Book Awards, the Murder and Mayhem category. So I got those under my belt too. So.
Yeah, and when you found out your book was a finalist, had you already planned to go to Killer Nashville that year?
Yeah, I entered the book as a lark, really. It was the first book I'd written, and I didn't even, you're just getting your feet wet when you first do these things. I didn't even really know what Killer Nashville was, but somebody recommended it to me, and I got on there and I saw, they have this, award, this category, this contest. And so I entered the book because I was going anyway, and they let you enter it for free if you're registered. And then I was sitting at the banquet with some of I'm on a blog group called Writers Who Kill. And I had met some of the bloggers there, and we were sitting at a table, and they called my name, and I literally, people say this all the time and I always roll my eyes, but I literally was unbelieving. So, but it was a very pleasant evening. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah. I agree. It is totally a shock when you win something like that, because you don't, I was surprised I was even nominated, and we weren't planning on going. Clay Stafford, I even said that in my speech. Clay, when I did win, I go, Clay, you encouraged me to come. I don't know whether you were just trying to put butts in the seats, or you really.
I remember that speech. I remember you saying that. Yes.
Yeah, because we were supposed to go away on a romantic honeymoon or a romantic weekend to Estes Park, Tim and I. So she and I ended up changing our plans and coming, and we've been going ever since. I'm going to go again this year. This year, my daughter's going to go with us because Kim's too tied up with work that she can't get away in August this year. So Dakota gets to come this year, which will be fun. So we'll see. So I always ask everyone, the title of the show is Bringing Life to Characters. Sounds like characters is a really important thing to you. You start first with your characters. What makes your characters, or what do you look for when you're building those characters to get them to jump off the page?
Yeah, good question. I think this is one of those things that I discovered about myself as a writer. I didn't know this before I started writing, but I think it's very important to me that the killers are not the killers, the characters are multi-layered, including the killers, that they have motivations that regular people can identify with. If you ever see a character in one of my books that seems all bad, they're probably not going to be the killer, because I want my killers to have some purpose, some real believable motivation that I can look at and say, but for the grace of God, go I. One of the lines in the book that gets used a lot is that Callie had a professor in college who told them that there's a killer in all of us. It's just a matter of whether it gets let out or not. And I think that may be true. You know, I can see situations in which I might be able to do some of these deeds if I were pushed to the right place and defending myself or defending a family or something like that. I don't think any of us, you know, what is it they say? There's some good in the worst of us and some bad in the best of us. And that's kind of where I go with the characters. They are multi-layered. They have to have every part of human experience to be interesting.
And the characters for you said, were pretty much come first. You think of those, you have a basic murder, but you have those characters as well. And then you build the story around that.
Right. And sometimes a story idea will come, you know, the third book in the series, the murder, and this is not a spoiler or anything, but the murder takes place in a hockey rink. And that just happened. My husband and I like to go to hockey. And I love your shirt. And so we were sitting at a hockey game, and it was either intermission or a boring part or something. And I remember looking up at the catwalk thinking, how interesting if somebody just fell off of there, you know, and so that kind of sparked that idea. And then so that was the one that I think I came up with plot before killer. And it's like, who would be up there? Why would they be up there? Why would somebody want to kill them from up there? And that kind of things. But
it's amazing how our brains work, right? When we see stuff like that.
It is indeed.
Well, the gears are always moving, going, well, there's an idea. Do we have any marketing tips? Especially being independent. Like you said, it's an ever-changing world.
Yeah, marketing, the biggest marketing tip that I have would be don't do what I do. It's not my thing. Now, I will say that I bought that Mark Dawson course, and I've made my way through about a third of it. And when I get more time, I'll sit down because I learned a lot from what I've done so far in that course. And there are a lot of good resources online to help with marketing. Brian Cohen has an excellent marketing program that I've taken some courses in. And I went, not last year, but the year before, I attended, at that time it was called 20 books to 50K. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. I
think I've heard of it. That's not the one in Vegas, is it?
It is. It was 20 books at that time, and now it's changed the name to Author Nation. Yeah. And so I'm signed up for that again this year because I got a lot of good information at that one. It's geared towards indie authors and a lot about marketing and things like that. So I'm going back to that this year and up my game. That's my goal this year, is to up my marketing game.
And are you going to go to Killer Nashville this year again?
No, this year I won't go. I don't think I'm going out there because I'm already going to Left Coast Crime this week, and then Malice Domestic at the end of April. And then if I go to Author Nation in November, that's about all the conferencing I can afford.
Yeah, they do get expensive.
Yeah.
And this weekend is Left Coast Crime. There's also the Tucson Festival of Books, which I hear is a big one. There's several.
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, a lot of those authors like to go Left Coast, but they said, well, Tucson, they did it the same weekend, which is kind of weird. I'm not sure why they crossed over into each other like that. So.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be going to Left Coast Crime. You'll be there Wednesday, and it goes through to Sunday. You're going to stay at the hotel there? We
are. My husband's coming with me to this one because I don't have to buy him a plane ticket or anything. So
my wife's going to come too. Get us out of the house. We're going to stay in the hotel as well. Even though we live in Westminster, it's like parking. I just didn't really want to deal with any of that.
Some of the things start so early. It's like you'd have to.
It's a lot of walking usually. You're moving from here, and you're on a panel, and you got to go down. Then there's the signings, and then you got the next panel, and then you got the dinners and stuff. So, yeah, you're pretty much on the go. And then people who know you stop and say hi and talk, and
Right. My whole concern with all this is that I may be overbooked and not be able to get to all the panels that I really want to get to
Yeah.
because, I'm working with another woman. We're in charge of the silent auction. So I'm going to have to spend some time organizing and being in the silent auction room. And then we've got that Sisters in Crime Carnival extravaganza that I hope people will come to there because it's really going to be fun. And then, I'll be at the Sisters in Crime National table a few times. And then you've got welcome receptions and dinners and banquets. And it's just like an extravaganza.
Yeah, you'll be tired by the time Sunday rolls around, right?
I will.
And you're on the one panel, you said?
Yes.
And that one's dealing with animals?
Animal sidekicks. Yeah. And then at Malice Domestic, I'll be moderating a panel on journalists as sleuths and as and the changing world of journalism in books. So that'll be fun too. Mm-hmm.
All right. So where can people find you? I got your website here.
Yep. There's my website. Like you said, I'm on Facebook and under that name, Lori Roberts Herbst. I'm on Instagram, Blue Sky. I got a site on Threads or a name, but I never get on there. So I don't think anybody'd really find me there. Facebook is probably my the place I am the most. The website has withered, but it's on my list of things to work on next week. So it's there, but it's just nothing new under the sun right now.
Yeah, I noticed you still had yourself living in Texas there in your
yes,
bio. So
yes, there you go.
I'll take that, yes. That's that, and I do my website too, and it's like you go back and you got a new book out, and I say, coming this way, and when it's released, like 2 weeks later, I go back and look. Oh, I never changed that to be.
I know. I need to keep a more regular list of things to do on that website. People can sign up for my newsletter. I do that monthly. I don't inundate people's email boxes with tons of newsletters, but I try to keep the newsletter fun, and I blog like I said, I blog with a group called Writers Who Kill, and I do that once a month as well. And that's just fun. We just find topics, and it's a really nice way to connect with readers. And that's what I mostly like about Facebook and the newsletter. I get lots of emails through my newsletter and answer every one of them and enjoy. It's one of the unexpected pleasures of being an author is becoming even virtual friends with some of the readers. It's just been surprising to me that, I just wrote this little book and people want to talk about it, and I get on, email, and we go back and forth, and I know things about their lives and they know things about mine. It's just really nice.
Yeah, it is. I think some people think it's a burden, that they worry about walking up to an author and saying hi and talking to them. And I've walked up, Andrew Child, Lee Child's brother, was at BoucherCon this year, and talked to him, and Reed Farrell Coleman's really big name authors, and they're just regular people, and they don't mind people coming up, as long as they aren't on their way to go to the panel or get to the bathroom, maybe. But
I've always been a little starstruck over Louise Penny.
Yes.
Are you familiar with her? She writes the Three Pines books, Armand Gamache and all that. And I met her at a conference once, and she was just so nice and, collegial, and treated me like a fellow author. And it was just, that's what I hope to be with other people, that just approachable.
Yeah. Yeah. And you are. So
thank you.
Come up and bother her.
Yeah.
She doesn't mind.
Come find me.
But do buy her books, though.
Exactly. Or I'll probably give them to you. That's mostly what I do.
Well, yeah.
Much to my husband's chagrin.
Yeah, we give away a lot of books sometimes that we shouldn't, but that's okay. Sometimes you do. I don't know if you do book funnel. Do you have a book funnel?
Yes, mostly for short stories,
Yeah, I'm getting more signups through book funnel than I have anything else. I don't know why I didn't do that years ago. I used to be on Prolific Works and I got nothing, but book funnel, I'm getting 10, 20 signups a day right now, which is
Oh,
nice.
really?
So really building and it's cheaper. It was fairly inexpensive too for a year. So
You're doing it through a newsletter? You're doing it for your newsletter or for your book sales?
no, so I'm using book. I'm doing cross promotions through BuckFunnel with other authors, sharing books. And then I put links in my newsletter as well for people to download. And then, my book is in somebody else's giveaway. I have 2 books that I give away these days. One's a short story and one's both in the Private Eye series. So, which I wrote years and years ago. So I don't mind. I don't really get a lot of sales off of those anyway. So I just get those and hopefully they buy more in the series. But
Right, exactly.
I've been getting just people, they sign up so they can get those free books. And then it seems like they don't, every now and then I'll get one, they'll sign up, they'll download the book, and they'll immediately unsubscribe. I was like, okay, well, I mean, that's their right. They can do that, but
The price of admission. Yep.
But I haven't had too much of that. So I've had a lot of good luck with.
Now, do you sell wide?
No, I'm all Kindle because I never sold many anywhere else. And I'm under KDP as well. How about you?
Yeah, me too. And I do Kindle Unlimited because, like I said, cozy readers are voracious and a lot of them have subscriptions. But I've been wondering if going wide was something I need to pursue. But again, it's one of those things that's down the road. I have too many take care of business things to do first. But
yeah, unfortunately, you can't do Kindle Unlimited if you go wide. If you get a lot of Kindle Unlimited sales, you'll have to think twice. I know I've had a few authors who got off of Kindle Unlimited because because they don't really pay you much. I mean, it's 0.0004 cents a page. But then when they got off, they're like, ooh, and they turned around and came back again because they just didn't get that many sales. So it always varies.
And some genres are better for Kindle Unlimited than others. I think cozy is pretty good for Kindle Unlimited, and romance, for example. Those people just read so much.
Well, yeah, they probably burn through a book in a day or two, and worth that $10 a month or whatever they charge these days. So, is there anything else you wanted to cover? We're getting up to the hour here. I know you got to get yourself packed and ready to go.
I do. I'm heading up there first thing in the morning. So no, I'm just grateful. Thank you for having me on. I've appreciated it so much. I put the link out there on my Facebook site, and I'll put it in my newsletter because they can find this later too. So
yes, there'll be a recorded version on my YouTube channel, and I will send you a link that you can download the video as well if you want to embed it in your website or share it however you want. So all that. This will be the last time I'm on this platform since they jacked my rates up. So I'm going to be with Ann Parker. She's going to be a guinea pig while I try the new one here in a couple of weeks. So if I've been testing it, it's not radically different, but I couldn't afford the massive price increase when you pay $180 for a year and it goes up to $440 a year. In 1 year, yeah.
What?
Yeah, that was what StreamYard went up to. It was like, no, sorry. And I even argued with them and everything, and I'm like, nope, we're not going to lower the rate. And then when I go to downgrade, because they have a free version, but you're limited on the free version. When I downgrade the free version, they offered me a 40% discount, which still was higher than what I paid. But I'm like, nope, too late.
Yeah,
you wouldn't give it to me when I asked for it.
I can't believe they don't have a mass exodus.
I think they have had, because there's a lot of YouTube videos out there about people who are mad about it and what are other options, and that's how I found the couple that I've tested that I'm gonna go with, and we'll see how it goes. So fingers crossed this worked. I mean, StreamYard worked really well. If they would have just had a slight increase, but that was just nuts. But they got bought out.
There you go.
Somebody bought them, and they probably paid 10 times what they're worth, and then they jacked the prices up or whatever.
Yeah.
Zoom wannabe. So, well, thank you, Lori. I appreciate it. Enjoy talking with you.
Well, I'll see you in the next couple of days.
We'll run into each other for certain, hopefully.
I'm sure we will.
And we'll probably both be sitting down going, oh, I'm so tired.
And I hope to see your lovely wife. She's always so kind to me. So
Yep. Nope. She'll be there. She's looking to get a couple books from me, which she's already reached out to you about. So.
I packed them away, so we're
Yeah.
good.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you at the hotel. Okay, everyone. Thanks so much for being on. Great talking with Lori. Like I said, I'll be changing platforms. My next show will be on the 24th. I'll be talking at 6 p.m. with Ann Parker. It'll be a different platform, but it should hopefully work as well as this one. It'll have a little bit of a different look, but it'll still be split screen to two of us and stuff. So it should be fun. So, but I appreciate everyone getting on tonight, and I hope you'll share the show with others. My YouTube channel out there, and this is episode 28, so I've interviewed a lot of great authors, so it's been a lot of fun. We will see you in a couple weeks.